I took a flight from Toronto to Zurich, hopped on a train, and found ourselves in the snowy town of Davos, buzzing with activities of the World Economic Forum. Welcome to my channel. I'm Arvinder Kang. Join me in Davos, Switzerland, the heart of World Economic Forum. As a first-time attendee in Davos during the World Economic Forum week, I was intrigued and unsure what to expect in this town of global dialogues and stunning views. From maze of discussions that shape our world to the charming streets of Davos, this journey was an eye-opening adventure. Ready to explore it through fresh eyes? Hit like, subscribe, and let's dive in this unique experience together. Let's begin. So I was attending Davos as part of the delegation by the Digital Economist, a think tank based out of Washington, D.C. Now you have to understand there are two types of attendees in Davos during the World Economic Forum. One are the official delegates. Those are the ones that are invited by the World Economic Forum. They are the ones that have access to the World Economic Forum Congress. The official delegates typically include government bureaucrats, large organizations and their representatives, heads of states, billionaires, and they have to be invited. Along with official events that happen in Davos, there are other events, what are called the side events, that also happen in Davos. And it is much of these events that attract a lot of startups, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of global movers and shakers. Those are the events where you get the opportunity to intermingle with the official attendees, ministers of states, and heads of larger organizations. Now, even the side events, you have to be invited either as a speaker, as an attendee to attend these. And getting access to many of these events, it's who's who town. You have to know someone to be invited, but once you do get access to these events, there is a lot to explore. So our journey starts in Canada, where all migratory birds, including snowbirds, flee to find places warmer. That is not my destiny for the next 2 weeks. Although there are a number of airports you can fly into, including Geneva and Basel, most people fly into Zurich, and that's exactly what we're doing. On the first leg of my flight, I find Air Canada showing movies in my own mother tongue, Punjabi. Yay! More kudos to language diversity. As we exit the airport, we can get a train that goes to Hauptbahnhof, which in English means main train station of the city. It's a German word, as a variant of German called the High German is the most spoken language in Switzerland, followed by French and Italian. Romansh is the fourth official language. To get to Davos from Zurich Hauptbahnhof, we will board a train from station number 8 to Landquart and then change train to Davos. So on our way to Landquart, we connected with Thomas. Hey, Thomas. And we talked about life in Switzerland. Life is great. Weather is amazing. Crime is limited. However, housing prices are pretty high in most major cities. Switzerland started as a confederacy in the 13th century, declared independence from the Holy Empire in 1648. It has maintained a policy of armed neutrality since the 16th century and has not fought an international war since 1815. This long period of relative peace, absence of colonization, and strong federal republic structure, along with direct democracy, where people directly vote on issues instead of a populist democracy, has given it economic competitiveness and great quality of life.
Nice to meet you, Thomas.
From Landquart, we changed our train to Davos. The train stops here only for 5 minutes, so it's good to know what station you're departing from. The weather and the elevation from Landquart to Davos changed quickly, and we started to see snow. Davos is a ski town. In 1971, Professor Klaus Schwab started European Management Forum, which eventually became World Economic Forum in 1987. And this town started to be known more for the forum than as a ski town. So we finally arrived in Davos. The preparation for this week of the World Economic Forum is on a completely different scale. On a train here, we met a couple of vendors who were flying as far as from England just to prepare for this event. Hotels can go up for thousands of euros or francs per night, and the food as well. So attending World Economic Forum is not a cheap affair. In normal days, these storefronts serve as restaurants, salons, and bars. During this week, however, most of them have been rented out by global corporations and governments and converted into what are called the houses. A place for display of all the country or the organization is trying to offer and portray to the world, to entice business and provide networking spaces for those invited into these spaces. Today was a long day. I finally met up with my colleagues and headed to a nearby village called Schmitten, where we had rented a chalet. A big day tomorrow. The Digital Economist is hosting the first ever Africa Coalition Luncheon, which we are severely oversubscribed. Exciting day ahead.
Satya, you good?
Yeah, Satya. Gurvinder. Say bye, Satya.
So this is a small village named Schmitten that we were staying in last night in a chalet we rented here. Switzerland has these small, beautiful villages, parts of cantons or member states of Swiss Confederation. It is beautifully federal structure of governance. Most villages I have seen so far have these beautiful clock towers, which are likely churches or cathedrals. Swiss poet Gottfried Keller once wrote, "Time doesn't move, it stands still. We move through it. She is the caravanserai, we are the pilgrims in it." Feels very true in Switzerland. So we boarded a bus and started towards Davos. Snow-laden mountains and plains, clear skies, beautiful small villages, winding roads, and great infrastructure. As I mentioned yesterday, Davos runs on badges. A few years ago, writers did a story on the color of badges and their relevance during World Economic Forum week, but it is hard to find information. The forum delegates usually have white badges and are the ones that have access to the Congress Center, often visited by the head of states. Even the side events have their own badges, often issued by hosted hotels via the City Police Center to the invited list of participants. It is almost impossible to get into most events without having a proper badge, and to get a badge, you have to be invited. Influence has a different meaning in this town. However, once you're able to get past this initial hurdle, you would get a chance to interact with some really cool people. During my 2 days here in Davos, I met a ton of very interesting people: innovators and entrepreneurs, federal ministers of countries, executives of public companies, folks from MIT Media Lab, and even CEO of Forbes, Mike Federle. So this is the first event here in Davos. We're hosting a lunch for the Africa Coalition, a first of its kind here in Davos. This lunch was put together by the Digital Economist, the organization that I'm part of.
Any different. So I like thinking about things like that, about the incentives that I can subject myself to, like having my finances transparent at the nonprofit, having all our
that, especially in places where big companies are not going to build infrastructure, dig power lines, dig plumbing. And so everything that we learn in space, you can use here on Earth. So
But look at all these people in the room. You all have some version of SDG alignment in your heart and in your work. And if you thought of the 3 SDGs that are aligned with your organization.
As we are nearing the end of our first day here in Davos, you can see there is a lot of activity. Here we see India Lounge. India has a huge presence in the World Economic Forum. A main lounge, a Maharashtra lounge, and a Tamil Nadu lounge. So here we conclude our first day. I'm excited and tired at the same time. This is a significantly different place than I have experienced before. You could be sitting next to a guy who controls billions and destiny of hundreds of employees, or a bureaucrat responsible for the economy of a country, or a young entrepreneur freshly out of college being promoted by the country as a future Bill Gates. Davos can be intimidating and normalizing at the same time. Today is my second and last day here in Davos, and we have some meetings and some events to attend to. As I was talking to people who have been attending the World Economic Forum for a while, a decade or two ago, the World Economic Congress used to be the only event that happened here. However, over the years, during the same week, large companies, governments started flocking to Davos and started hosting these side events. And for good reasons. How many other places can you find who's who of the most powerful governments and company leaders within 10 minutes reach? From what I have heard, the forum is not too happy about this side ecosystem that has ballooned in the last decade. However, given the amount of interest and business this generates, it is going nowhere. The other important thing to observe is that the largest houses belong to the developing countries. India has the largest pavilion. Canada and US were nowhere to be seen. We just met a delegate from Saudi Arabia. They have brought in a large delegation, 5 to 7 ministers, he said. They're building a 500 billion future city called Neom and displaying it here. The Indians have a huge presence, both in display as well as in food. Their lounge has catered lunches from Taj, one of the best caterers in India. They attract attendees, speakers, and delegates alike. India Lounge was indeed an ever busy hub of activity during the last 2 days every time I passed by it. Unfortunately, not a single minister from my home state of Punjab was to be seen anywhere. One that was scheduled for a talk did not show up. Middle East has a huge presence here. For me, it carries two meanings. One, that Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar are becoming a development frontier beyond just oil-producing nations. And they are attracting expats and investors alike from all over the world. Second, that they clearly want to be part of the Western Bloc ecosystem. Which other country is nowhere to be seen here? China. Meta in just the last month had more than 1,000 layoffs, yet they have a large presence here. Yesterday I overheard a conversation. World Economic Forum Week in Davos is a beauty contest for large companies, especially the ones that are large enough to impact jurisdictions. Today is the last major day for the events here in Davos. The last day of Forum Week has a number of parties, and we have invitations to a couple of them.
A lot of the trust in change is devoted to, like organizations like companies that have to step in and take action, and the incredible opportunity to inform, to invest, to make sure that the activism that they are seeing in their employees is turned into action and into positive opportunities. But
after a few sessions, we decided to check a few presentation centers. This one is by DP World, the Emirati multinational logistics company, and they control roughly 10% of the global container traffic via their port terminals in more than 40 countries.
The goods, okay.
Yes, please.
Fine.
Yes.
Indonesia held a very significant presence here, and they're trying to attract investments in digital as well as fintech sectors, among other things.
There's a lot of collectibles, and there's actually a huge collector base that collect things like.
It is late evening, and after finishing up with meetings, panels, and presentations, we headed to this invite-only panel and party jointly organized by MIT and Forbes.
She was her country's leader. She was the foreign minister, 38th foreign minister for the country of Australia, which
I don't know exactly what will happen, but I will tell you what I would like to see happen. And that is that today's technologies in robotics, in machine learning, in AI will give us all superpowers.
After leaving Forbes' party, we headed down to this party put together by the government of Indonesia. It was a very well put together event and met a lot of wonderful people. And with that, I conclude my short 2-day tour of the 2023 World Economic Forum week in Davos. I saw a different face of capitalism and globalization, one that appears gentle yet forceful, approachable yet distant from the people it serves, caring and sometimes pretentious about Global South. We saw young developing countries yearning to be like developed ones wanting the energy of the young. All in all, it was an experience that was intimidating and liberating at the same time. A lot of great ideas and things can be accomplished when people of different opinions sit together. But will we ever achieve that promise? Time will tell.